the number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back on the air, and I know what you're thinking. If you're waiting for the live show, you're saying to yourself, Joe, you got Garlits on the show today, but you're starting a little bit early, a couple of seconds early, and the answer is absolutely correct. I'm sitting here in the WFO studios, down there in the ready room, the legend of all legends, Big Daddy Don Garlits. We're going to talk about the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We're going to talk about the Museum of Drag Racing. We're going to talk about the Emily Oil NHRA Gator Nationals and the start of the 75th season of NHRA. But Garlits sits down. We're doing a sound check. He and I are speaking. He's hearing me clearly for the first time, I think, in a while. We're going to talk about that. He just had a birthday, and he starts telling me amazing stories. And I said to myself, we got to start this show early before we lose any great content. So, guys, if you're out there, if you love NHRA drag racing, if you're a fan of WFO Radio, we're going to talk about the breaking news with Ida Zetterstrom and Sean Reed. We're going to talk about the show, Chasing Speed on Vice. And I'm going to give you my perspective on the Blake Alexander Angel thing. We're going to talk about the 75th driver list. But right now, please join me in welcoming the guy who pretty much has done it all, won it all in the world of NHRA drag racing, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Don, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So
the fact that my age 94 is nice to be anywhere.
Yes. Well, tell me about the hearing, because we've done this a few times in the past, and you couldn't hear. You did something maybe risky, new technology, and you're living with something now that is enabling you to hear for the first time in a long time. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I have a cochlear ear implant. All right there.
Wow.
I got a computer, a magnet, and a battery in my head. That's affected my balance. They say that'll, in time, my brain will adjust to that, but it's tough right now. I have to have a cane to get around. But my God, it's good to hear voices. The first the first voice I heard was actually the technician who turned it on, the lady. And it was so funny. She says, now I'm going to push this key on this computer and it's going to turn on. And I don't want you to be disappointed, Mr. Garlits, because usually it's about a week before the brain sorts this all out. And because see what's happening now, I'm not using any of my ear equipment. This is attached to my skull and it vibrates the skull and the brain's touching up against that. And it takes those vibrations and turns them into sound that the brain hears that I hear. And that's what I'm doing. And so she pushed the key and it went beep, 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 beep. And all of a sudden there was her voice clear as a bell. I couldn't believe it. I tell you, I broke down. I couldn't help myself. I just started bawling like a baby. I hadn't heard voices in 14 years. And it was so nice to hear someone's voice. And there was this nice and clear voice coming over. And my girlfriend was sitting beside me. I'd never heard her voice. And she spoke, and it was so sweet and so nice to hear that. And the first thing I did, I picked up my phone and I called my oldest daughter, and Gaylin, and her voice came over, and it was just as clear as a bell, and I could tell it was Gaylin. And then I called Donna. And my unit is brand new. It was only about a week approved by the federal government. The unit has been approved in Europe for over a year. I don't know why they drug their feet here. But this unit is different in the fact that the older units, the voices were kind of like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. They were like animated voices, but not this one. This one is just exactly the way your voice sounds. It's so wonderful.
Congratulations.
I can't say enough about it. And it's a long operation. It's over 2 hours. You have to be under. And I was the oldest one they'd ever done. The oldest one my doctor had ever done at 93. And they were really nervous about it. They put a great big ventilator tube down my throat into my lungs in case I stopped breathing. And actually that was the most trouble. When I woke up, I was sore for a week from that thing being in there. I can't just imagine how those poor devils with the COVID, with those ventilators that they had put down those people's throats. It must have been horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have a friend who went through it for 20 days, and he was very, very sore afterwards. But what a miracle of modern technology for you, someone who has always chased technology and loves technology, to have it give you back your hearing. That's a positive thing. Very happy.
Yeah. I really like it.
But soon
it's going to give me some more years, because it'll give me, I can do things. And I was felt so left out of conversations in groups. I couldn't talk to anybody. Everything had to be on my phone, and the phone didn't pick it up exactly right. I'm reading what they say, I caption call and all that stuff. And it's all such a pain in the, pardon my French, ass. But, that's the way it was. And I lived with it like that for years and years. And now all you got to do is kind of talk slow and pronounce your word, because this thing, whatever you actually say, whatever sound comes out of your mouth, that's what goes into my head. It doesn't go through any ears and get modulated or anything.
Okay. I'm so happy for you. It has been an honor to host the Hall of Fames the past few years, but seeing you down there, interested, reading as the voice recognition software brought what we were saying up on your screen, this is a gift. It's amazing. And I'm super excited about this year's Hall of Fame, because I'm going
to really enjoy the Hall of Fame for sure.
You'll be able to experience it with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's awesome. That is so awesome. So I'm going to mention the people who are going in the Hall of Fame. You have had personal contact with some of them, others not so much. We'll mention them, but I'm going to start with Bob Fry, who is a mentor, I think, to anyone who picks up a microphone in NHRA. He is one of our greats, and he's going into the Hall.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Now, I always like to think about, you say Bob Fry, and you want to hear the first thought that comes into my mind.
Yes.
And here it is. I showed up after my wife died. I showed up at the Hall of Fame banquet, and I had this good-looking lady with me, and all in her evening gown and everything. And Bob Fry says, we're going to have to call him the Sugar Daddy from now on. And my girlfriend looked at me and said, what is he talking about? He's talking about you, young lady here is dating a millionaire that's got one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. In fact, I talked to Bob Fry prior to that. We was talking about it, and I says, do you think that I didn't look 80, when I met this lady. And I said, do you think, Bob, that I should tell her how old I am? And he says, if I were you, I'd tell her I was 90, because that'll make it even better. She knows you'll be gone sooner.
Well, that's Bob.
So that's Bob Fry.
His humor. He has a very sharp, witty humor. He knows how to deliver the message, but boy, does he love drag racing and has done so much for drag racing.
He could have been a stand-up comedian if he wanted to, it would have been easy for him. And he has that deadpan look too. He doesn't laugh about his own jokes. That's one of the keys. He's just looking at you just as serious as the world, and he's talking about this funny stuff. I can't do that. If I tell somebody something funny, I'm going to laugh with him, and you can't do that if you're a comedian.
No, you're not supposed to laugh at your
Plus,
own jokes.
then, of course, he's got an unbelievable knowledge of the sport. You know, I mean, he can talk about just about anybody, and he knows something about him, which is he wasn't quite as good as that one guy. I'm trying to think of his name that's got he's on the dialysis now.
Kepner?
Brett. That's it.
Yeah.
Now that is an encyclopedia of drag racing. I have never asked him a question that he didn't know the answer to it. Now, maybe it wasn't always right because I didn't check him. I didn't Google him, you know. But Bob Fry is right there with him.
Kepner's great. Love Kepner. Fry, great. Different jobs, different series. Kepner was more kind of a TV person. Bob was in venue for the years that I went to, but both love drag racing. And Bob really compiled a lot of the stats that we use to this day, like went back to the old era and figured out who won what so that we have stats to this day. I'm excited for his speech.
Yeah, it's great. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
Yes. All right. Pat Garlits.
It should be funny. It should be very entertaining.
No pressure, Bob. Right? He's probably out there watching this maybe at some point. No pressure, Bob. We all expect big laughs out of you. Okay, how about Arlene Johnson? You raced at the same time as Warren Johnson in Pro Stock, and as much as Pro Stock is different, Arlene is winning the Pat Garlits Memorial Award for supporting the sport. That's a pretty big deal for Arlene.
Well, that's what we put that up there for, because my wife really supported me. You know, you can't believe it. I'm writing a book right now, and it tells a lot of this stuff about what Pat did and what her contribution to the sport was. I mean, she was definitely an unsung hero. I would not have done what I did without that woman. That woman made my career possible. And Arlene is just exactly that. And that's what that award's all about. It's a woman that was behind the scenes that didn't get hardly any recognition, but was a major contributor to her husband's or her boyfriend. He didn't have to be married to do that. I mean, you know, there was Pam. You know, she was a special woman too. But Arlene was a very quiet and reserved woman. And I mean, she was the perfect wife for Johnson. And I just felt like she should be the one that gets it this year.
I agree. Well, she's going to be wonderful and excited to hear what she has to say. Other inductees.
I bet it won't be a long speech.
No.
I bet she'll just say a few words and thank you. And she never did seek the limelight, you know. And I'll be surprised if she gives a long speech.
Yes. Yeah. What's the right?
I hope she does. I love to hear what she's got to say.
10 minutes.
Maybe she'll tell us some tricks, some secrets that she knows about Warren that we ain't heard yet.
Okay. And that is the fun of the entire event, is people do tell stories on other people. And I'm excited for that. We've seen some amazing moments in this Hall of Fame over the past few years. Some good stuff. What is it about it that people want to tell their stories, do you think, at the Hall of Fame?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's, you know, this is the end of their careers, you know, most of them. And this is them going over what they did. And they want people to know that a lot of stuff never got mentioned. And that's the time they should bring it up and talk about it, because this is their day in the sun, you know, in the limelight. And I don't really care if the speeches go a little longer than they're supposed to. It's their minute. Let them have say what they want to. I'm all for it.
I love it.
Now, that was a little different with Maverick. He was up there over an hour and a half. I had to get him off the stage. You know, that was different. We still had a few people to put in the Hall of Fame.
They tell me.
I said, if you want to hear the rest of the story, you're going to have to buy the book. And Maverick looked at me, had tears run out of his eyes, and he said, I had a lot more to say. I said, I know you didn't even have a car yet. Was you there?
I heard about it. They told me about that.
I never forget it. I was born on the Wabash River to an Indian squaw. An hour into the race, he didn't even have a car yet. He was talking about his childhood. It's the most incredible. The man's mind was incredible. They could remember all these little bitty details of his younger life. And I mean, but we just couldn't have. It was 11 o'clock at night. We had couple more people going to the Hall of Fame. We had to get him off the stage.
Well, so I always try to keep the show moving because of that story. They told me, Chuck told me about it, and now I'm like, oh man, okay, keep it moving. But you're really good with details too. Everybody says that about you, that you remember everything.
Well, I don't remember everything. And some things I actually forgot purposely. I guess you know that.
Yeah, we all do. All right, Steve Boggs.
The book that I'm on, I'm doing my book now. I don't know whether you knew that or not. I'm at 90,000 words, and I'm in 2011. I just got my Superstock. I haven't got an electric dragster yet, and I haven't run Superstock Nationals, and my wife hasn't died, and I haven't met my new girlfriends, so I got a lot left to say. A
lot more. You could do part 2. You don't have to put it all into one.
No, I'm just going to put it in one book, one great big book. You get one, you get them all.
All right.
It'll take a while to put the photographs in there. That's going to be the problem. It's going to take some time because I'd like to have photographs everywhere I can put them. And I don't care what it costs to publish it. I'm publishing it myself.
Okay. You can do that now.
It's $50 though to buy the thing. It'll be so big and expensive.
They'll buy it. $50 is nothing to get your story.
You said that.
I did. I do. I agree. Think of all the things you could. I
got to tell you a cute story about we're talking about paper money now. I used to sign everything that they brought me, and lots of times I signed $100 bills. And I got a call from the U.S. Treasury. No kidding. The big, and this was a woman, had lots of power. She said, I'm so-and-so from the U.S. Treasury. I says, glad to meet you. What can I do for you? She says, do you think you're the Secretary of the Treasury? I said, oh, no, ma'am. He says, why am I holding a $100 bill here that's got your signature on it? I said, well, a fan gave me that and said he's never going to get rid of it and he wanted my signature on it. And I says, he probably got hard up and had to cash it. She says, Mr. Garlits, do you realize it's a $10,000 fine or 5 years in prison to deface the U.S. currency? I said, I didn't know that. She said, well, ignorance is no exemption of the law. She says, I understand your situation, Mr. Garlits. She says, I know who you are myself. Says, let me give you a little piece of advice. Don't ever sign another $100 bill or a $50 bill, a $20 bill, a $10 bill, or a $5 bill. Sign $1 bills. They ain't worth nothing. Right out of the mouth of the U.S. Treasury. And ain't that the God's truth?
Good advice.
They ain't worth nothing anymore, are they?
No, not really. Well, it depends on where you are, but not really.
I thought you'd like that.
I do love it. I love the stories and endless stories, the life you have lived and the things that you have done. But it's like you've got it. It's like fresh. It's new again because of your hearing. It's amazing.
I guess you heard the bad news last night, didn't you?
Which is that?
Esky's in hospice.
Don't know that.
He's not eating and he's not drinking. And he's not talking. I've been to several hospices. I know what that means.
Yeah.
And I said a little prayer over the phone on the speakerphone there in the room. And they said a little smile came on his face. It brings tears to my eyes.
What a life, though.
Oh my God. He was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
How do you think he just never stopped?
He never stopped. That's exactly right. He never slowed down. He never stopped, never shut his mind off and just went to the TV, He kept working. He gave camp seminars. He did everything. I went out there to Monterey with him a few years ago. He sat there in the cold wind, signing his books, hugging people and taking pictures with them, just like I was, like he was a 50, 60 years old, 100 years old.
100.
Incredible.
Incredible. 104 and still working, relevant, thinking.
Got close. July would have been it.
Yeah.
Been 105.
Well, fingers crossed. You never know.
You never know.
You never know. Well, but the whole drag racing thing, we've got this new TV show out called Chasing Speed. You're in it. You did some interviews for it. It's reintroducing drag racing to whoever watches it. And that era that you talked about on the show, there were no rules. You were just figuring it all out. All of you were just figuring it all out. That was amazing.
It is. And you know what that museum means to me down there, because I can go in there and see all of that. It's all in there. And it wasn't always like it is today. There was a lot of pioneering went on, and a lot of great men and women had a part of it. And I'm proud to have been a part of it.
Just coming up with concepts and ideas, whether it be the rear engine car or the wing, just thinking about technology, about air, about fuel, and creating things.
Thinking outside the box.
Do you have one that didn't work out that should have?
Oh, you mean ideas?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Good. I saved the bad ones. That's a Sidewinder. Tons of money spent on that thing. I mean, nice work. The guys at the gear company made some of the finest gears you'd ever want. But it just too much power to drive through them. The turbine car with the helicopter motor is supposed to have been a 2,000 horsepower motor. That should, and AHRA said that'll be fine to run that with the piston engines. But it didn't make 2,000 horsepower. I mean, it took me a year to figure that out. The Jocko Streamliner with the beautiful body, the aerodynamic body, but it's just too heavy. I mean, the thing was, we needed carbon fiber, but we didn't have that yet. And then the Swamp Rat 12A, the little short wheelbase car, real lightweight, just more of what I had in Swamp Rat 11, but that wasn't the way to go. It had to be long because they were going so fast. You had to have something for stability. Yeah, the failures are all down there, right with the winners. I saved them all.
I love it. I saw you race the Streamliner at Miami Hollywood Speedway. I saw that in person. I was a kid, and I thought it was neat. Like it looked like it could have worked.
Yep, it looked good.
Definitely.
Weight became so serious. You just couldn't have 150 pounds extra. You just couldn't have that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even to this day, we don't even paint chassis anymore because of weight. What about Ron Tobler, one of the inductees, multi-time world champion, of course, got Shirley championships early on. Did you have any interactions with Ron? I know he's excited to go into the Hall of Fame.
Well, he certainly deserves to be in there. I mean, he was a major portion of the combination that put Shirley into the world championship as many times as she won it. And they were actually married, as Mrs. Tobler, really, but she kept her Muldowney name. He's a super easygoing guy. I worked with him for a year on the car. I was a consultant, and Shirley had hired me because she wanted to be the first woman in the fours, and there was a couple of women knocking on the door. So I went to work for her, and I didn't really do much actual physical working on the car. It was mostly just the ideas that I had, things I'd see them do. I'd say, well, I don't think we should do that, or maybe we should do a little more of that. And at Maple Grove, after the U.S. Nationals in 1989, we put her in the fours. And it was a historic run because it was the first 4-second run for Shirley and the first 4-second side-by-side run. Her and Amada went down Maple Grove, each ran 4 seconds. And that was a historical moment in drag racing. And we were popping a bottle of champagne, and Shirley just had a couple of slugs of it. And she looked at me and she said, "Would you like to take a ride in my car?" I said, "You bet I would." And so I did. I got in her car at Dallas, Texas, and made the fastest run ever in my life, 287 miles an hour. And it was a couple mile an hour faster than Shirley had ever driven it. I didn't get the fours. I had a 507 because we had to back it down a little bit. The track hadn't come around yet. And Shirley said, "Did you guys hop that car up so that you could go faster than me?" I said, "No, Shirley, we actually had it calm down. It'll go run faster than 287 because we had to calm down so we wouldn't spin the tires. And I said, where do you shut off? She says, well, right at the finish sign. I said, well, surely the 66 feet further down the track is another set of timers. And I said, you have to drive to them to get to good speed. And she said, I didn't know that. And so the next run, she drove to the last set of lights and went 289, her fastest speed ever, just a nip off of 290. And that was a good car. And so when Ron Tobler and her split up, they had to sell everything because Ron was entitled to half of the money. And I bought all of Shirley, everything in Shirley's shop. I wrote her a check for $50,000. I took a trailer up there and cleaned the shop out right to the walls. And hanging from the ceiling was the car that I drove in Texas in 1989. And I'll tell you what, it brought tears to my eyes. I just don't know how everything works. It so works out so well for this museum. It's unbelievable. And that car is all restored now. And in the museum in Daytona Beach, when you walk in the Motorsports Hall of Fame Museum, you'll see two cars sitting side by side, and you walk between them, the Swamp Rat 23 and the Modani car that I drove in Texas in 1989. And here's a neat little story that you'll love. Going back to the hotel from the race that night in 1989, it was late at night because it went into the night. I'm driving down the big highway to the hotel, and I'm thinking, Herb Parks had just been killed a year before, and we were putting another team together to go out and race. We had the U.S. Marshals for our sponsor. And, of course, that all blew up when Herb was killed at Bradenton. And I'm riding along there, and I'm thinking to myself, the only thing that would have made that run better if old Herb had been there to pull the belts down on me just before the run. And I said, Herb, were you there? Did you watch me make that run? Herb, if you were there and watched me make that run, would you give me a sign? Show me something to tell me that you was there. And I flipped the high beams on the car, and the green sign across the road, Parks Schoolhouse Road, next exit. I'll tell you, it raises a hair on the back of my neck right now. He's probably listening to us right now.
I believe it. I believe it. I believe it.
I just couldn't believe. Herb, will you show me a sign? And I flipped the headlights, and there it is, the big green sign, Park Schoolhouse Road. I tell you, Joe, we don't know how it works.
No, I know. It's something. There's some, well, just like everything.
I'm all upset here now.
Oh, no, we had one of my favorite conversations a couple of years ago in your office.
Herb, he was something else. I loved him.
Well, yeah, it's tough.
I loved them all, TC, Connie Swingle. Oh, my God, my brother. They're all part of it. They all made they all made me what I am today. I worked hard. I'll admit that, but I didn't do it by myself.
They believed in you.
People helping me. A lot of good people.
They knew what they were dealing with. They knew that you're special, and they helped you.
They didn't make much money. I hope you know that. This was before the big money hit the sport. DC worked for years for $50 a week. Wow. Yeah. He said, he come from Oklahoma. He drove trucks, drove big 18-wheelers. He said, I want to drag race. And he says, all I care about is I got a roof over my head and food in my mouth.
Incredible. And the rest is history. TC Lemons, of course, and mentioned Connie Swingle helped you with the front engine cars or the rear engine car.
Oh,
just amazing.
Connie Swingle and TC with it. That was my man on the rear engine car. For 3 months we struggled with that thing and never got it down the drag strip. And I tell you, we snapped together a new car, fuel car, Slingshot, a nice car, the nicest one was ever made at that point. It's hanging in the McDonough, Georgia Summit showroom, hanging from the ceiling. Never been down a drag strip. And my wife come out in the shop and saw it. Said, "What is that?" I said, "That's my car for 1971, honey. I got to be in California in 2 weeks." I said, "We ain't got down the track one time in this rear engine car." And she said, "You'd get back in one of those things after it's mutilated you like that?" I said, "Honey, it's what I do." I said, they don't have a transmission in it. I'll be okay. She says, the 6 people have been killed in those cars in the last 2 years. Not one had a transmission. She says, this Sorokin, the rear end, come out of the car and killed him. And says, and look at Pete Robinson. Look at him. He has as nice a car as you'd ever want. She says, get back on that rear engine car project. Do it for your friends. Do it in honor of the ones that's been killed and the ones that might be killed. She says, you can figure it out. I know you can. So we got back on it and went over to the track and ran off the track again. We was messing around with the rear end. We was actually working on the wrong end of the horse. We thought it was all in the rear end. It's something to do with the way the weight was distributed or the spool or whatever. Because the way it darted so quick. And then coming back from that one, I had my hat pulled down over my eyes like this, and I was thinking, and I was thinking out loud, and I said, if I didn't know better, I think the steering was too fast because you can't hardly touch the steering. It runs off the drag strip. But that can't be it because the steering is on there just exactly the way it come off the slingshot. And old Swingle said, Gar, this ain't a slingshot. This is a front driver. If you think the steering's too fast, we'll just slow it down. So that night we made the longer arms for the spindles and a shorter arm for the steering box. See, this is before rack and pinion. Went back to the track the next day. I'll never forget. The car was leaving the line wonderful. I mean, it's leaving good. And you tried to keep it in a little groove, in the center where the marks were. And they just inevitably get out of that just a little bit. And you just touch the steering wheel, it comes back. You don't even think about it. And as I went down the track and it moved over a little bit out of the groove, and I just touched the steering wheel and it come right back and kept rolling. Oh my God, it corrected correctly. We got it. And it went 686. And a lot of people don't know this. The track record was 685 by the Ram Chargers. They just had a big meet there a few weeks before that I didn't even go to because I didn't have a car. And they set the track record at 685. And this car on 75% nitro just went 686. We couldn't get to the West Coast fast enough. And the rest is history.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing life, amazing stories. The rear engine car. And you saved so many lives. You saved so many, countless lives.
No idea how many. Well, what would have probably happened, in all fairness to NHRA, they would have probably eliminated the class. They were talking about it. It was so dangerous. They would have probably said, we don't run top fuel dragsters anymore. You have to have a funny car, safer. And that the sport would have revolved around funny cars then.
So on that note, we're headed to Gainesville right after the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Hopefully, everybody that goes will swing by Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing either before or after the event. I know Monday is a huge day at the museum. I also know you're giving tours. You're back to giving group tours.
I am giving a tour that Monday. I saw it on my schedule. There's a tour from 10 to 12.
Okay. My friend just went through one of your tours recently and said it was one of the best things he's ever done. So it's a good product.
We may have to do 2 of them that day because I can only do about 20 people at a time. It's not good. Yeah. I may do a second tour that day at 1 to 3. So it's a good possibility.
But with it being the 75th year of NHRA, I understand you're going to be at several events. You're going to come to Gainesville, obviously, your home track. But we're going to see you a lot.
And that new race you're going to have at the Southeastern up at Cecil. And, of course, I'm going to go to Indy, and then I want to go to Dallas. You just heard the Dallas story. I love Dallas. I love Billy Meyer. I think he's done a lot for the sport. And I want to do Dallas.
I love Billy Meyer also. Innovator. Came up with a lot of good ideas himself, including that track.
He had a lot of good ideas on the car and the engines. A lot of stuff's not been told about some of the stuff he did.
Oh, yeah?
He made all kinds of special cylinder heads with another spark plug, whether you knew that. And several other different things, major innovations that he was doing before he decided to just have a drag strip.
Did you see he did a burnout last year? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
They did a big deal where Billy got back in a car, Nitro Funny car, and did a burnout for the fans, like a crazy just exhibition burnout.
That's great.
He loved it.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, he loved it. He loved it. This season, 75 years. What does it mean? We're talking about anything that lasts 75 years has got to be pretty good. What does 75 years of NHRA mean to you?
Well, the NHRA took the black leather jacketed hoodlums off the street and made them legitimate, put them on the drag strips, and it was something you could actually say you're part of and not have people frown at you. God, I never forget the first time I went to the date with my wife in 1952, and they hadn't got here yet. We didn't know nothing about NHRA to speak of, and I mean, the dad didn't even want me going out with his daughter because I had such a bad reputation. I was a drag racer, and he took all those clubs and put them together, NHRA clubs. They made rules, and after my wife and I got married, we were on our way over to Bach Tower on Route 60, and there's one of the old Army Air Corps training fields just outside of town. There's a little sign there, not any bigger than about a 2 foot by 2 foot, handwritten, said drags today, and I had an arrow. And I said, honey, let's go down and see what's happening. And she said, I'd like that. You never took me to a drag race the whole time we were courting. I said, well, it seems like there's one going on down here. We'll go check it out. And a kid stopped us there halfway down the road, and he said, that'll be 50 cents each. Do you want to run it? I said, I do. And he says, that's 50 cents more. So I gave him $1.50, and we were in the track, and I had my car, my 50 Ford was entered in the stock class. And I won that class, and I won a little trophy that day, about this high. And I still have it. It's in my office. Wouldn't take nothing for it. And my wife just loved it. She said this was a lot of fun, and there was families out there, and this was an NHRA club and this sanctioned drag race, and it was they had trophies and clocks, not speed clocks, just ET, and it was very legitimate and very professional, and NHRA had done that, and that was in 1953. They'd already starting to get a foothold all the way back here to Florida. And of course, then the really big one came in 55. They went out of California, out the north, up Seattle, across the northern part of the United States, and come down the eastern seaboard, having that was a drag safari, not the safety safari. And they had these drag races. And the last drag race was going to be in Lake City, Florida in August of 1955. And the next race was going to be the U.S. Nationals in Great Bend, Kansas, the very first one. And I won that race in North Florida with my flathead dragster in a little club called the Strokers. And I was the only one in the club that won anything. And 2 weeks later, they had a little meeting, and they took up a collection and bought a little tea set for my wife and I. I don't have it anymore. It was destroyed in the tornado in 66. And they called me up to the front of the room, Gene Tinker, the president. I wasn't an officer or nothing. I was just a stroker. And they gave me this little tea set, and they said, we took up this collection, and we got this tea set commemorating your win at Lake City. I guess you'll retire now. And I said, Gene, why would I do that? And he looked at me and he said, because you will never beat the Californians. What did he see?
Yeah.
Almost 2 years to the date, August 1957, Cordova, Illinois, the ATAA World Series of Drag Racing, the big national event other than the AHRA, because National Hot Rod was gayest now. They were nervous about Nitro. I put the Cook and Bedwell car, the world champion record holder, 166 miles an hour, the first car over 160, and he turned 165 at this event and got the top speed of the meet, which was the big prize in those days, not ET or winning the race. It was top speed. He got that and took it back to California, but in the first round, my car beat him with a 996 to his 10-0. It so stunned the association that Jim Lamona, the president of the ATA, stood in the center of the return road and said us when we got back, he says, in all fairness to the world champion, we'll have to see that run again. So I ran him again and outrun him again. It was the best thing that ever happened because I went back to Florida. I knew I could do it. I just had to figure out what it was going to take. And I rebuilt my car. I saw all the different things they were doing, and I changed my car around to what I thought was better than what Seto Pastoian and what Cook and Bedwell was doing. And I went up to Brooksville and went 176 miles an hour, which just turned the whole drag racing world upside down. First car over 170. And what made that so important was, a lot of people don't know this, Roger Huntington was the big SAE engineer in Detroit. In other words, when you had a problem at the factory, you went to Roger Huntington and he figured it out for you. And he put the slide rule before computers, see. He put the slide rule to drag racing, and he had wrote an article in Hot Rod magazine that 169 miles an hour would be the absolute fastest anybody would ever go on rubber tires on pavement. And so it was just automatic that it must be a phony time. So it really, I got all these calls on the phone. I had 52 appearances in 1958 just to run my car and go as fast as I could at a drag strip, paying $400 and $500 a time. I was making good money.
My dad used to tell me about the slide ruled story my whole childhood. And as an example that smart thinking and technology can break barriers that we can't even imagine what's possible with hard work and, using math and science and everything. I became a broadcaster, but that is incredible. And you went out west.
About some of those suspension bridges when you're driving over them, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Those were built with slide rules.
Yes. Yes. But you went west and you beat those guys from California. And when you did you come back and make a point of it?
I didn't go to any more stroker meetings after they told me I should retire, that I would never beat the That was the last meeting I ever attended.
Uh-huh. Good. Yeah, they didn't deserve it. Terrible. They're presenting you with an award and he gives you a shot. That's not nice. So
I had a good time.
What do you think of one of our questions in the chat section asks you about speeds and stuff? Do you think we'll ever see 350? I don't think we'll ever see 350. I don't know. But what do you think of all the 340s and whatnot? It's, it's super fast. It's got people excited. What is your take?
Well, what they ought to do, just for the hell of it, they should take Gainesville and have a special race down there, not the Gator Nationals. Call it the Top Speed Championship of the World. They got 5,000 feet of shut off there. Yeah. And they ought to let these cars run a quarter mile, wide open throttle, take the gloves off. Yeah. And make everybody sign papers, no spectators down toward the end where parts can fly into the stands, or cars. And let's just see how damn fast they can go. I would estimate right now they'll go 350 easy, and possibly 360s is possible in the quarter mile. We need to know that. And there's cars that can do it and cars that would want to do it. It doesn't have to do anything about money. No prize money. This is just like Bonneville. Let's see how fast we can go. And that Gainesville's perfect to do that because it's so long and safe. And then nobody, just people in the grandstands, maybe to the 8th mile. And then nobody else down there because they don't want nobody to get hurt,
Sure.
But the drivers wouldn't care. They'd drive as fast as they could go.
I'd buy a ticket.
No, I would. I'd like to go fast.
Yeah. Amazing. Don, I could speak with you all day, but I know that you are busy and you've got things going on. So I don't want to take up all of your time. Someone did ask about the Swamp Rat display at the Gator Nationals. Do you know which cars you're taking? Do we know that?
We do not know that until they get here with the trailer and we see just what we can put in the trailer, but it will be a different display more than likely than we had last year. Okay. It might not be all my cars. It might be some other people's cars too.
Okay. But still, a big part of the game.
We got a lot of nice cars there.
Certainly. Well, Don, thank you once again. It's an honor to host the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame ceremony. I look forward to it each year, but this year I'm looking forward to it more so than ever before because you are back with your hearing, and I can tell the difference, and I'm super excited for you and for the whole sport to have you engaged again.
It'd be wonderful to sit there on that table and hear everything that's being said instead of just, getting bits and pieces, because in that kind of environment, the stuff that I had didn't work real well.
Yes.
It's going to be a great evening. I can't wait.
At some point, though, people's voices may begin to annoy you again.
It's going to take a while to do that.
All right. Good.
Just living in this silence all this time.
I got it. Don, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Thank you. Legend of all legends, Big Daddy, Don Garlits on WFO Radio. Thank you, Don. Appreciate you. And guys, how amazing is that? We're talking with Garlits. We're just having a conversation. He's telling these incredible stories, some that I have not ever heard. And thank you, Big Daddy, for coming on WFO Radio. And if you're a listener, guys, the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be broadcast. It'll be live streamed. It'll be broadcast. There's a TV show that the folks at Masters put together. It is amazing. But we've got Arlene Johnson, the Pat Garlits Memorial Award, Bob Smith, the Founders Club Award, Steve Boggs. Sean Bellemere is going to do the induction speech. He's a 5-time world champ and one of the 75 greatest drivers of NHRA history. Bob Fry, Ray and Morrison, and Ron Tobler, all going in to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame this year. Guys, you can donate to the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. You can get a seat or a table. Perhaps there are still some seats remaining. And what I would say to you is if you're going to Gainesville, you must go to Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing to fully understand the history of the sport and the sacrifices, the developments, the technology, what they were doing, and how amazing it was for men like Don and that whole era to get in the cars, strap in, go fast, race each other. Truly amazing. I thank Don for joining us on the show. Don, thank you very much. And thanks to Chuck and everybody at the Hall of Fame for making this happen. Really great stuff. Guys, we got more to come. I want to talk about chasing speed. I want to talk about the 75 drivers, and I want to get everybody ready for what we've got coming. The Ida Zetterstrom news is absolutely huge. But right now, I want to tell you about Larice Motorsports Insurance. This is very important. Larice Motorsports Insurance on board with WFO here in 2026. They do policies for race cars, tools, your trailer, your pit vehicles, all of these things. Now, what makes them different? Holden Larice and the team at Larice Motorsports Insurance then say, one of the big companies. The answer is the big companies have got countless exemptions and things that like, it wasn't where you normally park it, not covered. Race fuel in the trailer, not covered. You were on the return road, not covered. And those things, do you really even have coverage if you're not covered? I cover Project Pontiac in my racing operation with Larice Motorsports Insurance. I've thought that out a year ago. We were going down the road and it was like, man, what if someone crashes into me? What if a meteor falls out of the sky onto this project that I've worked so hard that it ends up in the Summit Racing catalog? And so I reached out to the folks at Larice Motorsports Insurance. I recommend you do as well. LariceMotorsportsInsurance.com. And of course, tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. When we come back, we'll talk about Ida Zetterstrom and the huge news. We'll talk about the top 75 drivers and, of course, Blake Alexander and Angel stealing the show on Chasing Speed, episode 2. That is coming up after this.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Looking to replace your OEM diesel particulate filter or diesel oxidation catalyst? Look no further than DPF XFit, a complete line of aftermarket diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts designed as an exact fit OEM replacement with all makes coverage for light, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. With thousands of units in stock, we ship the same or next day, and be sure to check out our comprehensive reverse OEM lookup tool. Always new, never remanufactured. For more information, be sure to visit dpfxfit.com. That's dpfxfit.com.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
Bonanza, the WFO League. You can go to Drag Race Bracket Bonanza right now, and you can find the WFO League and sign up and join us. We've also got our WFO Fantasy NASCAR League that is going on. Driver Group Game is back, guys. We're back on Driver Group Game, which is great. Hey, before we move on, I do want to tell you about the folks at HusseyPerformance.net. David Allen and his crew over there. If you're building a car, you're working on an operation, or if you got one of those cars that needs to be fed, you got to feed it. One of the things you got to feed it is gaskets, right? And so that means you need someone that's going to make gaskets out of good quality material, duplicate the same gaskets every single time, and get them to you on time. And that's what HusseyPerformance.net is all about. 412-716-4872, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. They do copper, but not just copper anymore. They've got these amazing composite gaskets that are beautiful, and they're cut perfectly, and they can get them out to you same day, sometimes next day, most of the time. Call David, tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio, and tell him you heard Joe sent you. I'm excited. I wanted to mention, Steve Boggs, right? Going into the hall. It's going to be great. This is going to be a raucous bunch. The Bartone team celebrating their hero. Amazing. Ron Tobler. I am super excited about Ron. Ron is a friend. And thinking about Ron Tobler, would I be in the sport of drag racing right now in 2026 if not for Ron and Hop Singh, Eric Lane? I don't know. I might have gone to do something else. But these guys were just great friends. And Ron Tobler is absolutely a Hall of Famer. And his speech is going to be wild. Anita Michaela, finish, multi-time world champion, first FIA 2 category champion, one in alcohol, one in top fuel, multiple top fuels, the Laganas. Big help to Anita. It's going to be very interesting. I hope she's coming. Rayer and Morrison, David Rayer, Buddy Morrison. Buddy is passed on, but is there anyone more Hall of Fame worthy than Rayer and Morrison? Still relevant to this day. You think about Rayer, Morrison, Shepard, and there's the whole nitro pro stock. But if you're into naturally aspirated, Rayer and Morrison are gods. They're gods. They are Thanos. They are huge. And of course, Arlene Johnson and Bob Fry. Bob Fry. We know, I don't know, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I know that it is impossible to live up to the expectations of those who came before us. We stand on the shoulders of giants, all those cliches. But Bob Fry, one of a kind. And you think about Steve Evans and Big Mac and Fry, and then Alan comes in with his technical knowledge. And now you've got Loans, who is as hardcore a drag racing person as it gets. Like, I consider myself, honestly, I like more of a racer, like a bracket racer, who worked in talk radio, and I'm coming in doing interviews and doing my best to keep my nose above the water. But a guy like Bob Fry, he could have been a stand-up comedian. He's got material, man. He's got material. And they're all going to be at the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? What a terrible mistake it was to not get a seat there. All right, let's see what people have to say about Big Daddy real quick, and then we're going to get into I guess I'll give you the big breaking news. It's up on NHRA.com as we speak. Ida Zetterstrom and Sean Reed are going to split the driving duties in the Reed Excavating Top Fuel Dragster. Now, this is Good news, bad news. Straight up. Good news, bad news. It's good news that Ida, who is an international star, she's talented, she's media savvy, she's an FIA champion, and, being an interesting looking person, right? She's beautiful. Let's just say it. Those are all great for marketability of drag racing. We gain her for some races. Her career continues. She's fighting and clawing for the opportunity. Great job, Ida and Sean and Rob Wendland for putting that together. We need Ida out there. Bad news. Sean Reed. I love the guy. Sean and I interact, and I would say we're friends, colleagues, friends, whatever. But he represents the hard work that it takes to go racing. And his dream, I watched him make his dream happen, and the risk and the gamble to just do it. Like Michael Jordan, just do it, Nike. What did that mean? Put on the shoes and try? It doesn't mean making a multi-million-dollar investment in parts and pieces and trucks and trailers to get out there to take every ounce of pressure and put it upon yourself so that you may fail in front of the public. But he did it anyway. He went out there and he rallied back from a crash, and everybody fell in love with him, and now he's going to focus on the business. And that's what I really think is the story of it all. Once you taste this, I don't want to use the word drug, but I don't know what else to call it. Once you enjoy the success, I'm sure there are some people who would say, yeah, I tried it. I'm going to go try to find another success. And then there are people who want to make their careers here. And I think Sean Reed is that guy. And he realizes, all right, I got a trucking business, excavating, got a car on the track. I've assembled a team. The team can win. I'm going to step out of the seat. I'm going to grow the business. And Ida's going to drive. So I like it. Good news, bad news. Hopefully, eventually, a 2-car team with those two. But way to go, Ida. Now I know why you didn't want to come on the show last week. Now I understand it. It all works out in the end. Joe Amato. If you didn't hear the Joe Amato interview, guys, I would encourage you to go back and check it out. If you also didn't hear the Austin Prock interview, where you been? Competition Plus has got a great story with Bob Tasca. Seeing the interview Bobby Bennett put out there with Tasca, I'm picking up signals. I'm picking up signals from Tasca. And I got to spend the whole year every Friday morning with Bob Tasca last year. And I was worried that he's not going to be at the Yes program. I don't know. I hope he is. Bob Tasca is no joke. He's a very serious player. And I think Bob Tasca, this is all my just feeling. This is vibes. I think Tasca realizes that people need to pick up the baton and carry it. Drag racing into the future. And they're buying dynos and they're investing in everything. Like Bob Tasca and Ford, like those guys, they are just racing is not enough. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. They want to become champions. And Bob is stepping out of the seat, giving the seat to the Procks family. All right, guys. And I think this is is it the same as when John Force hired Austin Coyle away from Frank Hawley? Is it the same? Or not away from Frank Hawley. That's not fair, since it was the Chi-Town Hustler was Austin's deal. Not exactly the same. Historians, don't attack me. You get what I'm saying. The Chi-Town Hustler coming off back-to-back Funny Car World Championships with Frank doing the driving, and then Force is like, that guy is the best guy. I'm going to hire the best guy to be my guy, and we'll see what happens. And the rest is history. And so Tasca is there. Been doing this a while. Been pretty good. But I got Ford, man. And I got, this is my family legacy. What are we going to do? Are we going to be here, or are we going to be champions while here? And so he made a big move. I agree. It's one of the biggest moves. And in the Bobby Bennett story, go to competitionplus.com. Check it out. Storylines. It's a great storyline. So good stuff. Oh, look at Hussey Performances out there. Thanks, Joe. I'll be making the rounds at Gainesville. See you there. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. Thank you for supporting WFO Radio. Appreciate you. Let's see what else. Great idea for the Gainesville race. All right, listen. So, spitballing ideas. It's everybody's favorite pastime. Everybody loves to spitball ideas. That's a good one. That's a good one. We had the Skag Pro event. Everybody's talking about like bonus races and what's cool and what this and that and whatever. A unlimited race at Gainesville once a year or once every 5 years. I think it would be pretty crazy. And I'm never going to say no to that. Like, you talk to a racer or a race fan or anybody racing, like, is it a good idea to shut down the United States Capitol and inconvenience the workings of government to have a free IndyCar race for the 250th anniversary of America? Yes. The racing community says yes. Can we do dragster burnouts? Can somebody talk to one of our connections there? Can we do some dragster burnouts down Pennsylvania Avenue as part of the showcase? Can we get in on this? Why is it exclusively IndyCar? What can we do? How can we be a part of this? So, you're never going to get me to say no to something like that. NHRA specific. But yeah, I think it's pretty fun. Wonderful interview. Thanks, Don and Joe. Guys, share the show. Look, Don has moved on. I feel like he would have stayed with us for as long as I asked him to. There's more stories. But we had him for 40 minutes. Please share the show. And if you enjoy Don Garlits, maybe we'll invite him back. Now that he can hear again, it's changing everything. Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing, an incredible visit. Thanks to you and Don. Love the energy Big Daddy has. He loves his life. He loves life. One of the best conversations I ever had was with Don Garlits. Something that I'm particularly interested in. And I had always wanted to have the conversation a few years ago, and it's crazy because everything happens for a reason, right? Like the Parks story. That was when my neighbor gave away my cat Christmas, but now I have these 5 cats and everything's connected in the universe. And that's what I will say. Everything is connected in the universe. Open your mind a little bit more. Excellent stuff, says Danny Fox. I'd pay more than my 4-day TEC tickets for the unlimited speed race at Gainesville. Unlimited speed race. Safety is still a factor, guys. You got to think about safety, and I know the drivers would do it, but there's something to it. 75 drivers, top 75 drivers list. Steve Torrence. Indisputable that Steve Torrence. We haven't heard a lot from the Torrence camp, right? I like to joke that the Steve Torrence camp, maybe I missed it. I've heard what I think is happening, and I'll be curious to see. But I don't know that the Torrence Capco team. Steve has always said, when I retire, I'll look back at that stuff. It's like, no, man. People are appreciating you right now. 4 consecutive championships, the perfect countdown, an alcohol dragster world championship. And what is it, 60 wins? Steve, I wrote them down. Yeah, I got this. 64 plus 1 and perfection. So Steve is definitely in. For the people who want to include sportsman racers, how do you not put Steve? And I think Steve counts as a sportsman racer. Larry Dixon, 62-3 championships. Yeah, sorry, Larry Dixon has to go in there. It's mandatory. You cannot, drove for Snake, drove for Alan Johnson, 1 championship for both of them. Come on, got mandatory. There's no debate on that one. It's indebatable. Who gets in there? Where are the rest of my notes? Well, fortunately, I got it right here. Cruz Pedregon. Cruiser. What is it? 44 wins, 2 championships. 44-2. Beat Force. Stopped the Force train in the early 90s. Drove for Larry Minor. Drove for Joe Gibbs. Won as a privateer. Cruz Pedregon. I don't know. It will be hard to make a list and not have Cruz on the list. But some might some might challenge it. Tony Pedregon, 43 wins, 2 championships. You know the numbers. 43-2, 44-2. Tony now as a broadcaster for over a decade. And I know he's polarizing, but I like him. But I like the fact that Tony is causing controversies. Like he's putting it out there. He's not pulling a punch. I pull my punches. I don't have 43 wins and 2 world championships, you know. I got to pull a punch every now and again to survive. They'll ride me out of there on a rail. You see what happens. You see how it goes. But I think it's a great list. And we're getting down to the wire now. One of my most memorable moments, Big did a fire burnout at the popular hot rodding race at US 131. Said Ford Purley. I saw Garlits do a fire burnout at Miami Hollywood Speedway. You know, I mentioned Miami Hollywood to him. To him, it sounds like it's just another track. But when Garlits would come to Miami Hollywood, it was a huge deal. And I remember seeing the Sidewinder and the story of the spotlight is one that I lived, and it's one of my favorite stories. I don't know if he would remember it. I don't want to hit him like as we're testing the hearing. Like he was hearing me pretty well, the going back and forth during an interview. But went to Miami Hollywood Speedway. Garlits is going to be there. It's got the Sidewinder. Problem is, it's the mid-1980s. It's like 1983 or something, 82, 83, early 80s. And Miami Hollywood Speedway is in decay. You know, let's call it decay. Like the lights, first of all, these are old incandescent lights, the wires that hold the lights, that powering the lights. You can see them like draped from pole to pole. It was not a palatial lighting system like is mandatory now. This is the old world, kids. It was different. Like things just were. You know, go look at videos from Bronx, New York in the early 80s, like mid 80s. Like things were, you know, kind of old, and they had built the track in the 60s and they had fun at it, a playground. Think of an old playground where things get rusted. You know, kids played on it, but how much effort goes into like maintaining the playground? They pulled that money out of it. Well, anyway, the lights down track weren't very good. If you're going to run fast cars, you got to come up with a system. So what they did was they went out and rented one of those spotlights. And this is another thing that has gone away in our civilization, as I have now just turned 53 years old the other day. Me and Garlits, both January birthdays. But when someplace was opening, someplace of interest in your community, certainly here in Miami area, the people who opened the business would hire a spotlight to just go around in the sky, you know, back and forth. And people, think of this, before the internet, before phones, before all of that, but when TV had a couple of stations and local wasn't even a huge deal. That was your way of attracting attention. What's that spotlight in the sky? I don't know. Let's go look at it. Let's go find it. And people would actually drive to the spotlights. Isn't that just crazy? What? Drive to the spotlight? No Yelp review? Interesting things near me. You know, ask Gronk. But they took one of those spotlights and they put it on the starting line and they pointed it down the track. And that's it. The top end is lit. And there we are, me and my dad and a lot of people. I would say 15,000 people, like a lot of people, like a packed grandstand. It's Miami. It's the 80s. It's Garlits. It's Miami Hollywood. Big crowd, guys. No offense to your local track. Miami Hollywood was different. Don't believe me? Ask Daryl Gwynn. And as Garlits is getting ready to either he did the burnout or like the show is about to happen, man. It's on. The show is on. The light goes out. Darkness. And so the track crew goes over, and I've told this story before, but the track crew goes over and they're messing with the light, trying to get the light on. The light is not going on. And they're all potchkeying around and they're trying to figure it out. And they're wrenches and they're figuring it out. And it's not working. And the crowd in Miami is getting angry. Now, this is a beer bottle throwing crowd, guys. I'm not going to tell you anything else. You ask. Brian Loans just did that Captain Jack documentary in Orlando, and Loans did a lot of the history and voiceover. Congratulations, Loans. That's amazing. That's the kind of act that came to Miami Hollywood. We're talking jumping school buses. We're talking skid plate guy. We're talking all that stuff. Carnival stuff. Danger. Benny the Bomb. That was all Miami Hollywood. We were a big market. Money to be made for crazy acts like that. So Garlits is sitting in the car and the crowd is getting angry. Now it's going from discontent to anger. Next up, rage. What happens when rage? They want Garlits chanting, screaming, anger. Next thing you know, Garlits pops the belts, gets out of the car. There he is, crowd screaming. Garlits, there he is. Walks over to the light. Gets in the light. Less than 1 minute later, the light is on. Garlits goes back and makes a run in the Sidewinder. This guy's amazing. Clearly. So the top 75 drivers. All right, so chasing speed. What'd you think? Monday Morning Racer posted a thread which had a lot of people jumping on there. If you haven't seen Chasing Speed, man, you're failing us. No offense, but you're failing the sport. You're failing us. I pride myself on being willing to attack the audience when they need it. I've talked to a lot of people. Oh, I've been so busy. Oh, I haven't caught up. This is appointment viewing Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. If you've got Vice, if you don't have Vice, but you live in the States, you should be watching this crap Thursday morning. Watch it. Watch the show. Crap, relatively speaking. You know what I'm saying? It's good. It's the best thing they've ever created, but you got to watch it. You got to watch it. Otherwise, you don't know what it is. Oh, I'll catch up after the Gator Nationals when it's all outdated. Get out of here. Watch the freaking show. People on there complaining for decades that NHRA needs a show, and then when they make a show, they don't watch it. And I'm talking about my friends. I'm not talking about the masses. I'm talking about my friends, people in the industry. Yeah, I just haven't watched it yet. I don't know. I'm busy. No, you're not. Nothing more busy than this. I would have liked, I think it's a mandatory. I think it's part of work for the NHRA. The team that put this thing together busted their butt. And so now we've got Blake versus Angel. What did you think of that? And so people are attacking Angel. Angel is catching a beating for something, that little mistake that happened like a year ago. And Blake called himself grumpy little bastard. I have a problem and I go down there and people are going to think I'm a grumpy little bastard because they put a mic in my face. And yeah, they will. The GLB, grumpy little bastard. Not exactly the kind of nickname that could stick. But this is what having a reality show is all about, guys. This is it. Showing the internal workings of the sport, your good side and your bad side. And that moment was definitely a thing. Remember Jason Logan and I having the conversation. Life's a Drag on tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time. Don't forget, subscribe, click the bell. Never miss a Life's a Drag. Those guys are doing it good. They had a lot of influencers on the show last week. It was really good. All these great guys. They had Beer Guy. They had everybody. It's really cool to see. I would buy a Chasing Speed DVD. How about downloadable? So I said in a comment thread put up by Monday Morning Racer, look, I was there. I saw it. I know what was happening. I've talked to the principals, and I would hope that people, oh, look, we're having trouble streaming to Facebook. The good news is we don't have any listeners there. Let's watch the numbers and not drop when we lose Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, go watch on YouTube. People need to offer each other a little bit of grace in their worst moments. You can complain all day about the civilization and how terrible people are, but when the opportunity is yours to attack. So Angel got, I would say, overly attacked for her question. Her question was, rough start to the season. How are you going to turn it around? Blake took exception to that. Rough start to the season. Now, he did just almost DNQ because the seatbelt got caught on something and he had to cut his hand to get it out. That kind of feels like a rough start. But maybe it wasn't the best question. But Blake just attacks, and then she's getting attacked in maybe her second effort ever doing that. Second time ever. Blake knows that that's Angel, 3-time world champion, pro stock motorcycle racer in a new gig and a new role. He knows. He's media savvy. So someone asks a question that's slightly inartful. You tell us the story about the belt. You move past it. You use the time. But instead, he was full of adrenaline and reacted really. And so now Angel is going through that. Nobody wants Angel to go through that. So the powers that be blame it on us. She does. It wasn't the Fox guys. Angel is not supposed to know. Is it the Fox guys? Is it which truck? Who is it? Which truck? The guys in the truck. It was a producer in the tower. She doesn't know that. But the point is that, at this point in that crisis, not all the information is accurate. Nobody knows exactly what's happening. It was a bang, bang situation. And mistakes do happen. But when you call out every single person that is in your sphere on perfection or nothing, but then you don't live up to the standard of perfection or nothing, that's a little bit hypocritical. And I think everybody is to blame. And I have taken a new tact because this has happened to me. When you say 10,000 words, some of them are going to be wrong and some of them are going to be mistakes. And you could tell me all day long, well, you're a professional. You have to be perfect. And I will send you over to the PGA. No. When you strike out on a round of golf, nobody is going to be perfect. And that second shot might end up in the rough, and that's a bummer. But you're not going to dwell on that second shot for the rest of the round and feel imperfect because, you shot par or a bogey. You're going to get back after it and try to make everything perfect after that as best as it can be. Same as a pitcher in the major leagues. Sometimes they walk people. Sometimes they give up home runs. But you can still be a winner and go to the Hall of Fame even if you give up a home run. So, yeah, that particular question at that particular time maybe didn't go over. Blake, in his moment, nobody could have known what the guy just went through. And he did a really good job on the show. Like, honestly, does Blake end up on that show if the moment doesn't happen? What's good? What's a good thing to happen? If you're Blake, if he doesn't lose his mind on Angel, does he make the show? Does he make the second show? I don't know. It's good debate to have. But I don't think she deserves to be raked over the coals by anybody. There, by the grace of God, go I. Anyone could make that mistake. If it isn't even a mistake, it turns out, his questioning was the rough start part. And then when she said, they told me to ask that, now he had a car to chase. And then grabbing the microphone and, cursing into it. There's other ways to handle that. But who knows that? A year later, Blake Alexander does, who is actually, a fine young man. Good dad. We get to see the inner workings. Blake's been coming on WFO for decades, trying to make it in the world of drag racing. Clearly, Lone said he's maniacal about it, and sometimes the mania comes out in different ways. Lone's calling Blake Alexander a maniac on the Chasing Speed show. Pretty much, that's what the vocabulary says. Guy's a maniac. He's maniacal, and the mania comes out in different ways. Yeah. Called him a maniac. And maybe it's true. Maybe the sport drives us all crazy. The desire to do it. But man, it would be really difficult for the mistakes that I made to be televised a year later. That will be tough. And I haven't talked to Blake and I haven't talked to Angel, and I thought about reaching out to them, and I don't want to because right now they're characters on a TV show. They're characters. Till the Gator Nationals, when they become real people again to me, I'm enjoying the show. I'm really liking Chasing Speed. And this is the sacrifice that you've got to make, a deal with the devil, if you will. You want people to know about you, then they're going to know some of the bad things too. And when you have a moment, an adrenaline-induced freak out, or you're Angel and maybe you ask a bad question, or you're our producer, who I know exactly what happened, offered possible threads for questioning since she was on her, the job for the second or third day. You got to live with it. We got to live with it. So what I was saying to everybody out there that's in our community, let's offer some grace to these people who are now in the arena. They're on the public stage. There are people who don't even know who the hell they are making judgments about who they are. And they're doing it. It's a sacrifice for all of us to make the sport more popular so that we can pay the announcers more. We can pay them a lot, like gratuitous sums of money, which I'm very excited. Hopefully it happens. That would be great. I want to know what these guys on Life's a Drag have to say about this whole craziness. The rest of the show, you notice I didn't, Garlits isn't watching the show, but they introduced Blake. Blake runs Caps. Caps crashes. Story about Caps. I found that to be interesting. I kind of liked it, the way that went. Like, we're on this. Whoa, this guy crashed. Now we're on this. Who is Ron Capps? Ron Capps is a really cool guy. Ron Capps has been around a long time. Ron Capps was given his opportunity by Snake. Who's Snake? Here's Snake. A little history about Snake. Snake and Garlits. Snake, Wally, and Garlits. I like that. And then we go back to Blake, and then we got Tony Stewart getting his first race win. Tony and Leah. You get a nice shop tour from Tony. And Tony processing his defeat to Clay Millican. Guys, that's what you've wanted this whole time. This is it. You're getting it. You're finally getting it. You're getting what you wanted. You're getting what everybody said we needed. You're getting it. Tony goes over to Clay, gives him this nice, like, hey, man, good thing. And then he gets in, and Booger's in there. Chris Haflerback, great job being on the show. Great job. Real grit, right? Eubanks was in there. But Tony gets in, and he's like, and then it kind of washes over him. We lost. We were right there. We were right there to win the race. And we lost. But then he goes and gets his first win, the 4-wide, Vegas. Great show. It's great. It's great. So if you're making excuses about why you haven't watched it and you're so busy, you took out the garbage, I have no sympathy for that. This is 6 44-minute shows. Watch it. Watch the program. All right. Any other commentaries out there? Let's see what people have to say. Dujanet Bland, I was on the Not Bland show last week, guys. I was on the Not Bland show last week. I hear he's got loans this week. Am I hearing about that? That's cool. It's a dope show. Pretty crazy to see myself in that thing. Yeah, you were in the background. You were in the background for the Tony and Leah press conference or something. Way to go. It's an inside look at the sport of NHRA drag racing. And I too was excited to make the show. Hey, there I am on the starting line. I exist. Jason Galvin sounding great as the play-by-play of in-venue and NHRA TV. Brian Loans doing an excellent job of setting it all up. Jason Logan from Life's a Drag. Oh my goodness. He's eccentric. You got 2 words, but what does that mean? Jason, I'm excited to hear what he says because based on what I know, he's a little nervous. Like, what else did he say? What else are they going to use? Let's see. The TV show just wanted to make Blake a bad guy to get people sucked in. So the reactions that I'm seeing aren't overwhelmingly negative to Blake. I have seen a lot of people say that they like Blake because of what they saw. Not so much the Angel part of it, but what he was saying about working so hard to be there and just getting Blake time, to see him and his family, to see him in the car, talking about hero cards a lot. But dude, you know, auto parts OEM supply, with respect, grabbing the microphone, telling the guy on the other end of the microphone, you're a jerk, whatever he said, like that's, you know, not probably the way Blake would go back and do it again if he had the opportunity. That's me pulling punches right there. You just witnessed it. I'm sorry to say, but everyone, including you, is a somebody. Yeah, everybody is a somebody, but some somebodies are less interesting than other somebodies. Why did NHRA waste time with Blake Alexander? He is a nobody. Oh, that's what this guy is responding to. He's not a nobody. Blake is a young, attractive, intense, extreme competitor. He's all over the place. And he's been fighting to be here. He's won in Top Fuel and Funny Car, one of the very few. What he needs is stability. He needs stability. And Blake Alexander can develop into something. And I think, you know, like the mania that Loans is talking about is real. The mania. Was that her question? Was she fed that question? All right, there's a good question. Dujanay Bland. Nobody is fed questions unless they ask for one. I have worked for the National Hot Rod Association for, you know, I don't know, 13, 14 years since Bob Fry retired. I think 2012 or maybe 2013 was my first year. I don't really even know. I'd have to go back and think about it. Never once have I been fed a question. Nobody on the NHRA TV side of the deal has the luxury of somebody to feed them a question. We don't have that. It doesn't happen. So if you posted on social media about people feeding people questions on a regular basis, and this is a bad policy and blah, 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 that is not the way it goes. No one is fed any questions. You're expected to come up with your own questions. But what if you are brand new on the job in a category that you're unfamiliar with, interviewing people that you're unfamiliar with, in a sport that you cannot practice? There's no practice. We're never sending, like if you want to do a home cooking segment, we could go to a kitchen and we could practice the home cooking segment. But there is no practice for adrenaline-filled nitro drivers. There doesn't exist. You know, I guess you could have flown yourself to a test. No, we're going to do it as it comes. And we're going to offer grace to everyone in the situation as they get their feet wet. And to the person, Ida, Courtney, who did great, everyone comes in and it's like, oh, it's not exactly an easy thing to do. Not easy to go get in there and get relevant with drivers. But no, nobody gets fed questions. In this circumstance, as I understand it, there was you got to get involved on the top end. So what are some things to talk about? I don't think he bursts out of the gate. Rough start to the season. How are you going to go turn it around? And the choice was made to internalize the question. I don't know if I could do that to everybody. I could do that to everybody at any time. Like really get into the question. It's just not my job to do so. And really, if you're the top end reporter, any reporter, you will take some crap from the drivers at some point. Definitely going to happen. Why? Because they can't give crap to anybody else. Certainly not going to give it to the fans. Definitely not the sponsors. You do it to your team at your own peril. You know, you guys. Yeah, good luck with that. And then your fellow drivers, if you get after them, you're just motivating them to beat you. And so if the pop-off has to come at somebody, there's a good possibility it's going to be at someone with a microphone who's asking a question that's maybe slightly inartful. Any other comments out there? Agree to disagree with strategy. I don't know exactly what you're referencing there. These shows are what make other sports popular. You know, the guys that Drive Us to Survive, a lot of the teams say, like, wait, that's not exactly how it went down, you know, like, well, and everyone's got their reasoning. But to me, you got to just make an interesting show. It was great. It was great TV. Come on, guys. We don't get mad when folks do this on Hard Knocks. No, we don't. We'll see. We'll see if the NHRA fandom can do the right thing here. Like, will they do the right thing with Austin Prock? That's something that I'm interested in. Like, if you're a John Force fan and this guy just left you, you root against him. Root against him. And that's the extent of what you get to do. There's nothing more. You know, screaming at him in person, you're a bad person. Like, no, that you don't do that. You root against him and root for your favorite driver. All right, guys, final thoughts, final comments in the comment section. We need you to drop them. Let's go. Big Daddy Don Garlits was amazing. International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony coming up right before the Gator Nationals. Life's a Drag on tomorrow. Want to remind you, if you were a Patreon, you could go hear all the Hear It From Heiner shows. Pro Stock, Crew Chief Show. WFO Swag is on sale off and on at all times, including Project Pontiac gear. That's what I'm working on. I'm going to go racing myself in February, which is now February, Speed World Orlando. And the reason I can do that is because of some great sponsors like Foggit. You got to get it at Summit Racing Equipment. That's a twofer. Get yourself a can of Foggit at Summit Racing Equipment. It's $20. Order a can, put it to use around the house because it is a highly refined, high quality oil. But its purpose is high performance racing engines. Foggit.com, summitracingequipment.com. Marvin Rodak, 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. Coffee, hot sauce, spice rub, everything good, but it's the coffee that keeps you coming back. Get yourself a couple of pounds of coffee and be ready. Roasted fresh per your order. Thank you, Marvin, for the happy birthday wishes on Friday morning. Thank you so much, Marvin. That was tremendous. If you like the show, January is when we make our Patreon push. You get a t-shirt if you sign up for the year. Sign up for the year and see all the amazing extra that you get. We on the Ignition Show got a tremendous surprise last night. One of our Patreons, Matt in Australia from Torque Calibration Services of Australia, revealed a 3-year kept secret to me. Like, other people on the show knew the secret. I did not. And it's really cool. And it has to do with racing. That's all I will tell you. Bernie Speed Shop. Hopefully you'll be at Bernie's on Wednesday before the Gator Nationals. We are talking about maybe doing a WFO something from there. It'll be interesting because we will have done the test session from Gainesville Tuesday and Wednesday. They're going to be live streaming the test. And then I'm going to shoot down to Bernie's for the Fan Fest. If you're flying into town, go to Orlando, go straight up the Florida Turnpike and stop at Bernie's first on Wednesday. But really, it's all about educating people about Bernie's Speed Shop and the 100,000 square feet that they've got up there. It's a car dealership. It's an auto restoration shop. They build dreams at Bernie's. And they are buying and selling on consignment as well. BURNYZZ.com, Bernie's Speed Shop. Check them out. Our friends at Frank Hawley's, they got a dragster adventure coming up in March after the Gator Nationals. You can drive a dragster out there at Gainesville Raceway. Think about it. Go to frankhawley.com to find out more. And they've been doing a lot of testing with funny cars. Wonder who's in there. Of course, our friends at HusseyPerformance.net, Redline Oil. Thank you, Redline. Mark, thank you for jumping on board with WFO Radio. Really appreciate you guys and the fact that you're amping up your participation in the sport of drag racing. Like, you look everywhere, teams being helped by Redline. So we thank you. FTI Performance made a big change to Project Pontiac. Like, didn't have a trans temp gauge in our first Mad Thrash. We just didn't get to that. And, I went out there and raced in Orlando, got down to 6 cars without the trans temp gauge, but we really should have one. So instead of drilling the pan and everything, they just sent me a pan and swapped it out. Thank you, FTI. The thing is about FTI is it's customer service based. Great parts, great pieces, billet valve body, 180 straight cut gear set power glide for my 3,400 pound car. But if you really want to go fast, top sportsman, top dragster, pro mod, FTI has got it going on. FTI Performance. Thanks to Paul Lee. Total Seal piston rings. We've been rolling out interviews from PRI. Scott Schafferoff, Pat Musey, all kinds of really good stuff. Adam Wick, Tim Wilkerson. What's up, Adam? I know he's out there, Adam. It's like, yeah, man, I listen to the show. It's incredible. I get excited every time one individual person in the industry tells me they listen to the show. This show, that show. Thank you. But go listen to those interviews. So much information, vital details. The folks at Larice Motorsports Insurance, certainly. We have been doing the Parade of Champions. Guys, Bubba Linky was on. Casey Plaisir was on. Justin Lamb. They're all in there on the YouTube channel. We'll be putting them in the podcast feed soon as well. But, man, that Bubba Linky interview was great. And you think about the folks at Larice, and that's who many of their clients are. Sportsman racers who have got a piece of equipment that will be very difficult to replace. I've seen videos, trailer fires. The day that the Cosmos serves that to you, you're going to want to be covered. And Jesse Converters, the DPF XFit and G Sport brands. Matt and Eric Latino, Eric and Matt Latino, doing a great job with this business. And OE particulate filters, we're talking about over-the-road trucks. All the clamps and clips are all in exactly the same place, and it's times to replace. It's easily done. Thank you to all of you folks for supporting WFO Radio. But a regular person wants to just get a sweatshirt. That's cool too. The iguanas are freezing to death down here in South Florida. They're all in like cold weather hibernation, and people are encouraged to gather them and bring them to the wildlife care centers. It's been very weird. 3 consecutive days in the 30s in the morning. And then it goes up to like the high 40s, low 50s during the day. OE Parts says, support those companies that support NHRA and WFO. Thank you very much. We have to. That's our superpower. We don't have the numbers, guys. We don't have the numbers. We have to make up for it with intensity. And you're gonna get companies in there. We need Tasca back out there in the second car. We need Sean Reed out there in the second car. Joe, speaking of shows, are you going to listen to Alan's show tomorrow? I thought it was today. I thought it's at 5:30 today. Alan and Nicole Clark. Nicole, who was on the thread attacking Angel, and then right in the middle of it. So it's going to be very interesting. Alan Reinhart is returning to the Competition Plus network, and that is great. Alan and I worked together here on WFO and at NHRA for 20 years. It's going to be very interesting to see just under him with Nicole, who's a professional broadcaster and lifetime drag racing person. Clark Gaskets. Think about Nicole's family. They have been heavily involved, so she's got a lot of opinions. Alan's going to give takes and technical knowledge, and another great show popping up in the world of drag racing. I hope to keep your attention on WFO. I think the last 3 weeks, Austin Prock, Joe Amato, Don Garlits. Are we doing a terrible job? Cliff, great show, Joe. Thanks for doing what you do. Are we doing a terrible job? To be honest, I really didn't have a take on Blake prior to the episode, just because he normally doesn't get a ton of spotlight. But this made me a fan. Gotta love passion, and he is clearly passionate, 100%. So, how deep do you want to go? Blake wants and needs and has to get coverage to keep his dream alive. But There's only so much coverage to go around on these big shows. And so sometimes guys are like, why don't I get a little more coverage? And that's exactly what you're supposed to do. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so maybe now that we want to, all right, we want to get some coverage, let's go give you some coverage. But we might not have the perfect question for you just yet. But here's the coverage. What are you going to do with it? What'd you tell us about that seatbelt thing? No. Why didn't he tell her about the seatbelt thing? Great show, Joe. Shows are a little different lately. Hopefully you guys have noticed that. Lonnie, drag racing is kind of like blues, jazz, and classical music. Always the red-headed stepchild and fighting for respect and acknowledgement. It really is true. The other night on Grammys, jazz was not on TV. And so was rock. They gave the rock award off the air. That made me annoyed. I mean, I like hip-hop. I like everything. But have we really gotten to the point where rock is an off TV award? Seems like the standard question if you watch a lot of top end interviews. Yeah. So when I coach people, John Force made his living not answering any questions. His whole reputation is not answering any questions. John, it looked like the car rattled about 60 feet and you drove through it. What happened? America. And people love that. So if someone does present you, here's some free media consultation for every drag racer in the world. If you don't think the question is great, give the answer you want to give. Man, we just were backed up against the wall. We were not qualified. The belt was hooked up on the carbon fiber. We almost lost the run. My hand is bleeding. I'm bleeding. I was in there freaking out. It was crazy. It was chaotic. Oh my God. And everybody will love you. Attacking the questioner and elevating a negative situation is never the right thing to do. Unless you want to end up on a reality TV show a year later. And then apparently it works. And oh, by the way, I support it. Whatever it takes to make this show interesting. Whatever it takes. And to those of you who are like too busy to watch it, I got my thing. You're failing us. People inside the sport, you're failing us. This is not the kind of thing you go and catch up with. You got to live the experience with all of us. Live it. Have a great day. All of you. Have a great day. Garlits, amazing. Love the Big Daddy. The legend of all legends. And we got him back. That's what's cool about it, that we have him back. He can hear again. And he told you, and I think you probably felt it. 14 years without hearing a person's voice. What's that like? And I'm out there on the starting line, honestly, always double earplugs and covering my ears. I'm trying to protect. Congratulations to all the inductees, the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Everybody who supports this show. The guys on Life's a Drag doing a great job. Elin, Jason Logan, they're giving their takes. We are building up to the start of the most consequential season in NHRA history, the 75th season. The Golden Gator going to be out on the line. What's not to be excited about? And whether it be Alan and Nicole Clark, whether it be Monday Morning Racer, Dujanet Bland, Brian Loans, and Tony Pedregon, all these people, everybody is working really hard to make it happen. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But right now, I'm going to go work on a race car. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. And thanks to Big Daddy, WFO.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.